coalition politics that we foresee should actually be seen for the positive or for the virtues of coalitions, where we can play to our strengths. Because, yeah, I agree with you. We shouldn't be kind of ANC, embark on an ANC banging kind of escapade, because it's not going to get us anywhere. But we need to find a clear solution, and there are certain parties and individuals that we can play to the strengths. Still on this coalition stuff, and maybe both of you want to just comment on this question of an increase. So a number of surveys besides the Brenthurst surveys, and besides this book, there's a number of organizations that have come together to gather huge amounts of data. I don't think I've seen this in any previous election, by the way. So a lot of people do see this as a watershed moment, although some people are saying that actually the next election will be. But anyway, we can debate that in a second, the next election after 2024. But a lot of them are saying that, and as Ray started off his presentation, that we have never seen such a low turnout for elections, and obviously the youth are increasingly feeling disconnected and disinterested in this process. Now, all over the world, we do see that as soon as you involve the youth, because this is a global phenomenon, by the way, this disconnect from politics and from democratic elections. We see, and in Latin America, where it's obligatory to elect, they've never had such a low turnout in all the countries. But in South Africa, with an increase in the youth, will we see an increase, an increased push towards more populist parties like the EFF? And does that then bode in favor of your quadrant of the bad, where we might see that coalition between the EFF and the ANC? If we, the positive, we're going for a larger turnout at elections, but will this resort then in the bad scenario where we see a stronger support for the EFF? Because we do see the support for the EFF climbing at the moment, and maybe some people are a little bit concerned about that, given the populist rhetoric that comes out of the EFF and the potential of forming a coalition with factions of the ANC.
You could view it as a trade-off. And I have a particular view, which I think is that it is much better for the country to have high youth participation in formal politics. In other words, in the democratic institutions, systems, like through elections and so on, even if that means that a party like the EFF gets more votes. I think that the EFF would be a beneficiary. I mean, one of the things about the EFF is that it has very large demonstrations, sometimes exaggerates the numbers. I once made myself very unpopular, by the way, by taking a aerial photograph of an EFF rally that they claimed had 50,000 people and actually counting the people, and it was 5,500. But so it's like your lawn. When you're sitting on your deck chair and you look out, your lawn looks very green. But when you get up and you walk, you see all these empty patches, So, illusions. But nonetheless, I think that their street kind of power is much higher than their formal democratic power, and that's why they've always polled below expectations in elections. So that would probably go up. I think it's a good thing. That's more pressure on the other parties to pay attention to a massive social problem in this country, which is the exclusion of youth from the economy, and actually to start addressing that. That's how democracy works. You create the pressure inside the system. By not participating and staying outside of it, the establishment parties are allowed to ignore this problem, and have for 30 years. Have not confronted youth exclusion and unemployment and social issues. So it's much better for there to be involvement.
When you look everywhere in the world, especially in Africa and Latin American developing countries, the youth are disaffected. The Arab states, high unemployment rates, Egypt, marginalized. And in this country, the youth constitute the largest share of the population. And they also account for the largest share of unemployment, right? They're restless, they're angry, and all those things. And the language, the discourse that Malema advances resonates with them. resonates with them because they feel excluded by the elites, they feel betrayed. And Malema is saying, we are going to nationalize the mines, we're going to give you this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and all those things. And they see that as, this is the salvation. This is the man who's going to salvage our future. And that is why some of them are starting to make this, which I think is absolutely nonsense, that Mandela, he was a sellout, you see. And that is because of that rhetoric. So I think that EFF is a significant force in our political system, but the EFF doesn't have a record of governing. You see, when we talk about what we are talking about in this book is that we have to be pragmatic about the future of this country. And one of the things that we fail to do is to govern it competently, right? And the EFF, I can't think of any municipality or even a provincial government, or they're in coalitions but not running, right? They're not governing. They don't have a track record of governing. So I'll be very, very, very worried about that. The DA does have a track record in the Western Cape in particular. The ANC does have a track record. It's patchy, but they have a track record. The other parties like the IFP, it was Natal. If you go to the rural areas, some of the municipalities are run well by the IFP. We don't hear about them, but they're being run well. So we need somebody who's going to grasp the reform, nettle.